Okay, so I made a video that made fun of noob builds, and I figured it'd be a good idea to make a video that actually explains how to make a good build in this game. So let's start off with the noob build first. Okay, so the noob build that I made fun of was Breaker Shotgun. Breaker Shotgun, I think it was Redeemer, um, Railgun, Laser, 500 kg, and then either Shield or Guard Dog Rover, one of the two. So the reason why I think this is a bad build and why it's like a huge noob trap is because the game doesn't really explain to you that you're supposed to be proactive against certain things. Like this game really rewards you if you take the initiative against enemies that come up on you, because it gives you so many tools to like know beforehand where the enemies are and where they're coming from that you don't really have any excuse to be overwhelmed. And that is probably why I think new players struggle so much and why they choose a build like this. So the reason why this build is bad is because it pretty much predicates on the fact that you are going to be making so many gameplay mistakes and you're going to have such terrible positioning that you're pretty much going to be overwhelmed and overrun by enemies at every point during the mission. And that's never a place you actually want to be in. Ah, I didn't mean to do that. No. Okay. Whatever, wait for this to load. Can I cancel? Damn it. Didn't mean to do that. So like when you start off on trivial difficulty, there's a lot of enemies and you don't really have too many options to deal with them. So it kind of like puts your brain in this mentality where you just gotta shoot everything that you see. That's not actually correct. So the way that you should be approaching your build is you want to think of everything as a solution to a problem. And there's only really 5 problems that you're gonna face in this game. And it's pretty much the same thing every time. So those 5 problems are patrols, outposts, bug breaches or bot drops, heavies, and then overwhelming numbers of like small and medium-sized enemies. Those are 5 problems that you're always going to face, but as long as you're making good decisions. So you kind of want to keep those problems in mind, and you want to start looking at stratagems as solution to those problems. If you are constantly, this is a side note, if you're constantly finding yourself being overrun by enemies and you feel like you need the noob build, my honest recommendation is to start using smoke and EMS. Smoke, EMS, gas strike, stuff like that, because you need to learn how to position yourself and how to like control enemy positions too. That's kind of why I don't like guard dog. But alright, so for patrols, you could pretty much take anything. Anything that kills stuff will work against patrols. Anything that conceals your movement or sight lines also works very good against patrols because it means that they can't aggro against you. Turrets, I wouldn't recommend so much as a means of dealing with patrols because they're stationary and you can't move them. They're on a pretty long cooldown. So let's say you like throw down a turret and it kills the entire patrol, you might need that turret later, right? So turrets are really good at dealing with like breaches and bot drops because you can throw them down ahead of time and then just have your line of sight on there right when the enemies pop up. It's very good for stuff like that. What else? What's good? What else is good? What's good at dealing with patrols? I think strafing run is good at them. Eagle strafe run, orbital gatling barrage. Orbital gatling barrage is pretty good for breaches as well. But basically, you got to start thinking of these as solutions to problems. So what is the problem that? What's a problem that I want to solve? Do I want to do outposts, breaches, heavies? Let's go with heavies. Let's say I want to do expendable anti-tank as my main weapon. So this is actually on such a short cooldown, 70 seconds. You could bring another support weapon if you want. You could be the designated heavy destroyer on your team. So let's say you get like a spear, anti-tank. What's some other stuff that you might want? This is where you need to consider problems and weaknesses that you have in your build, because if you specialize only in one thing, you're going to struggle against everything else. So right now with these 2 stratagems, it looks like I'm specializing against dealing with heavies, okay? So the question I have to ask myself is, do I want to struggle against everything else, or do I want to bring more stratagems with me that can help me deal with the stuff that I'm not going to be good at, right? So patrols, breaches, those are going to give me a hard time if the only thing I have are like anti-heavy missiles, okay? Like what if no heavies come out of there? I'll be screwed. So I would want to bring something that could deal with a breach. And maybe something else that could deal with like fabricators and like bug holes and stuff, right? So now I kind of have a more cohesive build that is centered around solving specific problems instead of a build that's just like frantically, oh no, I'm surrounded by enemies, I need to shoot everything I see, right? Like I hope that I hope that makes sense. Does this make any sense? I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking. I have no idea, man. This is how I go about building my characters. Is I look at one of those 5 problems: patrols, outposts, breaches, heavies, and overwhelming numbers, and then I ask myself, which one do I want to specialize in solving? And then you identify the weaknesses that you have with the stratagems that you've chosen. That's just going to come from experience. And then you switch things out based on what you know you struggle with and like the things that you're good against. Like this honestly might be overkill for heavies, but I don't know because I've never used this build before. So that's yeah, whatever. I'm just gonna go into it. Difficulty 3. We're not gonna be facing any heavies, luckily. So it's probably gonna be like very underwhelming when we go in there. I forgot to cover primary and secondary weapons, but it's pretty much the exact same thing. I usually do those last. Honestly, is like I identify anything that any problems the build will have, and then I look at the support or the primary and secondary weapons and grenades, and I say, okay, can any of these solve this new problem that I have, right? So yeah, cool. I hope that makes sense. Hopefully that was helpful. Yep. Bye.